Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Arrow Season 8 Episode 3, otherwise entitled Leap of Faith. And if you have not seen this episode, make sure you go and do so before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So the last episode, Welcome to Hong Kong, I thought was a great second episode for this season, and going into this one, I was looking forward to it because, again, it kind of felt like it was deriving from Season 3 a little bit, like last episode did, which I was really looking forward to, and also we had the return of Willa Holland as Thea in this episode, who was coming back, and I was really excited to see her, and this episode really had a lot of good stuff going for it. So I'll start off, as always, with the flash forwards. They weren't quite as bad this week as they normally are. I kind of seen everyone else say that. They weren't quite as bad. They were still bad, but they weren't, horrific or anything. It was basically just one prolonged action sequence where we had the team, new Team Arrow wanting to storm the Deathstroke base, and I have to say, I really can't stand Mia as a character. Like, literally in this episode, they're all standing in the bunker, and they're like, oh, well, the only way we can get to the Deathstroke gang is if we storm the bunker. It's like, and we can't do that. And then it's like, oh, well, unless that's your plan. And Mia's like, well, yeah, well, we'll do it this time. And, I know there isn't really any changes. Nothing's really happened, but we'll do it this time. And I was just like, something's going to happen. Someone's going to die. And based on the episode synopsis for episode 4, we knew someone was going to die in this episode. We knew one of the members of New Team Arrow was going to die in this episode. And for me, it was down to either William or Zoe. It was one of the two. Most likely for me was Zoe, just because she's the most expendable. And yes, that is exactly what happens. Right at the end of the episode, Zoe gets stabbed by JJ straight through the heart, and Zoe dies. This is a shame because out of all the new Team Arrow members, I think Zoe was honestly my favorite. I think she was the best. She was the only one really who kind of had a hint of her own personality and her own sort of edge, which I liked. Fortunately, or unfortunately I should say, she was the one, although I felt she was the best personality-wise, she got no story, either in Season 7 or this season. She never got anything to do, and that's why I knew she was going to be the one to die, because she was by far the most expendable. So I'm sad that she's gone, but in all actuality, the flash forwards are kind of gone now, so whatever. So yes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Willa Holland returned in this episode as Thea Queen, and it was fantastic to have Willa back on the show. Obviously, Thea is such an integral part of the show. We needed her back for this final season at some point. I believe she is a recurring guest star this season, so I think we will see her in at least one more episode. But my god, it was great to have Thea back here. I've missed her. Even though they kind of struggled with her character in the last couple of seasons that she was in, just bringing her back for this one episode, her and Oliver teaming up for one final mission together with Talia as well, it was just fantastic. And, the acting between Stephen Amell and Willa Holland was fantastic here. Their chemistry was really on show. Their scenes are always special, and especially in this one where he basically has to tell her, the reason why I'm here is because I'm going to die. It really created a lot of really awesome scenarios between the two, and I really love those scenes. Again, it's just these particular actors. It's like when, they brought back Moira in episode 1. Just these family scenes with Oliver, they're just fantastic, and I just think that Steven's really selling it this season, as he always does, of course. But with Willa as well, just having her back, it created this dynamic and this element that has been missing from the show for a while. And I think that, these scenes really gave us a good hint of that. And I do miss Thea. I hope that she does come back for another episode this season, because, again, the show has not been the same without her. So the reason why he's here is because he's basically trying to find out information from Talia about Marnol Vu, aka the Monitor. And they go on this mission through the catacombs of Nanda Parbat to try and find this scroll, which has ancient information regarding the Monitor on it. This was cool. I mean, I liked having Talia back. Every time they brought Talia back has always been a bit of a surprise. When they brought her back in Season 7, that was a huge surprise to me. Obviously, we knew she was in this episode, but, it was cool to have Talia back, because Talia is always kind of an interesting character because you never know where she's going to go. She's a bit like Catwoman in the sense that you don't know if she's working with you, if she has her own agenda, what's going on, what her true motives are, and where her true motivations lie. And I really like that about Talia. It makes her an interesting character, and again, she was like that in this episode. We also got the return of Athena and the Thanatos Guild, which I thought was really bizarre. The Thanatos Guild were in Season 6, and they were kind of like part of that Thea Roy story arc that we had. Bringing them back was fine. I mean, they were basically there just to establish that what Thea's been doing. Thea had been, fighting them since the end of season 6, since they destroyed the Lazarus pits and things like that. Roy also did get a mention, saying that Roy did actually return to Thea after we last saw him in season 7, so Roy has been about. So, interesting stuff. I did like seeing all this because, again, we need one of the big, things I need ticking off from this final season is some kind of explanation as to what happened to Roy. So we did get a little hint of that. But I think with Colton Haynes coming back at some point this season, probably right towards the end, we should hopefully get a full-on explanation for that. But at least we know he has been back to see Thea since we last saw him in season 7. And I think that, again, just showing that Thea has been continuing to do what she's been doing has been fun. And she also is now basically sharing the League of Assassins with Talia and is renaming it the League of Heroes. So could that go anywhere in the future? Who knows? Maybe in the Green Arrow and the Canary spin-off we might get something to do with that. I hope so. It'd be awesome if they can get Willa back. But yeah, I think that this had some really cool stuff in it. I really enjoyed it. And I think overall, as a storyline for Thea in this episode to get her back, it was perfect. And the other kind of storyline we had was Diggle and Lyla, who are still in Hong Kong, are actually trying to get Bronze Tiger's wife and his kid Connor back from where they had been taken. And I think that this was a great storyline. This actually might have been my favorite in the episode because this Diggle and Lyla stuff, this is stuff we haven't had for years. This reminded me back of season 1, season 2, when we used to have these episodes where Diggle and Lyla would be on their own missions. Sometimes Oliver would be there with them, but for the most part, it'd be Diggle and Lyla, husband and wife working together on missions. And we haven't had that in so long. So to have this kind of scene, where they're kind of undercover and in a mission and things like that, again, it's just something we haven't seen in a very long time on Arrow, and I really loved it. I think that the chemistry between David Ramsey and Aubrey Marie Anderson is always on point, and it was once again here. Also, it was nice to finally get some kind of movement on the Connor storyline, because obviously we know that Connor, he needs to get adopted by Diggle at some point, so it's going to happen here. And this basically established the relationship between Connor and Diggle. So, Connor now knows who he is. So I really like this storyline. I really enjoyed it. It was just something that, again, it felt refreshing because we've not seen it in such a long time. And it put Diggle in the forefront, which Diggle has not really been on the forefront for a few years now. They tried to do it in season 6 with the Green Arrow storyline, but it didn't work. So to give him a scene like this, or an episode like this, where he was able to really, just be Diggle, I loved it. I think this was such a good, episode for him, such a good episode for Lyla, especially because Lyla has become such an interesting character this season because of the Harbinger thing. There's just a lot going on here, and again, putting that Connor storylines forward, I just really love what this particular episode did for this storyline. And of course, we need to talk about that final scene where a big flash of white light just strikes across the world, basically, and we see Oliver return to the bunker in Star City, and behind him are Connor, Mia, and William from the flash forwards, now in present day, standing in front of Oliver and the rest of Team Arrow in the bunker. I have to say, I didn't expect this to happen this early on. I expected, obviously we know that Mia is going to be in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, so we knew the character of Mia at least was going to come to the present day. I didn't expect it to happen now. This is very early on in the season. Well, I mean, I know that this season's only got 10 episodes, so I guess maybe not, but I didn't expect it to happen now, and I especially didn't expect Connor and William to come as well. And it's kind of insane because you see William's reaction. William, knows Oliver. He grew up with Oliver, so it's kind of like a big shock to him. And Mia has never even met her father, so that's, again, a huge... Well, I guess she has met him, but obviously she wouldn't remember it. So it's absolutely ridiculous that these two just show up. And then also Connor's there as well, which is very interesting because, of course, Diggle is here. We still don't know the status of Diggle in the flash forwards. We still don't know if he's alive or not, so that's very interesting as well. I have to say, this basically puts an end to the flash forwards, which is good, but this creates a very interesting dynamic. I don't know where they're going to go from here, and also I don't know if William and Connor are going to stick around. I imagine they'll go back. Obviously, Mia's going to stick around, but we don't know about William and Connor, but I'm very interested to see it, because again, I want to see William and Oliver interact. I want to see their kind of relationship now. Obviously, Mia and Oliver would be great. And also, I really want to see what they're going to do with Connor and John. That would be great. And also, particularly with Zoe. Obviously, with Zoe just being killed off screen, we're going to have to see her. They're going to have to talk to Renee. Renee was there as well. So they're going to have to talk to Renee about the death of Zoe and how he's going to prepare for that, and maybe that will kind of set Renee's story into motion, into how he becomes the person he becomes in the flash forward. So there's a lot of really good, interesting stuff going on here. Again, the flash forwards, they've never been great. The characters in particular have never been great, but bringing them into the present day definitely creates an interesting dynamic for the characters and definitely sets up some really cool and interesting stuff they could do if they utilize it properly. So definitely a surprise. Again, I expected it to happen, just not this early on, but I'm very curious to see where this is going to go for the season going forward. But what do you guys think about this episode? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more DC TV content just like this one, be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again in my next one.